Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, we will learn how to create a functional sidebar using Next.js 14, Tailwind CSS, and bunch of other technologies. Let me show you the demo of what we're gonna create in this video. So basically, you have a sidebar with all the option in here. Uh, as you can see, I'm currently on the home page. The navigation is also working. As I'm clicking on multiple option, it is being navigated to respective pages. So I can go to payments account. There is also items which has sub menu inside of it. So you can expand it and you can see all the sub menu hidden inside of it. So you can go to settings, security, notifications, and same for support, contact us. Let's say you are already in the contact us page and you refresh the page, you will see that the menu is auto expanded for the sub menu and then it is auto selected for the contact us. I'm super excited for this tutorial. Let's jump right into it. To get started with the project, let me go to Next.js page, and then if we click on get started, we will see that we need to install Next.js and create a project out of it. We are currently using app router, so this is the command that we need to use. So if I go paste it in VS Code terminal, let me name my project as sidebar. Yes, I would like to use TypeScript. Yes, for ESLand. Yes, I would like to use Tailwind. Yes, source directory. Yes, we will be using app router now, and we let it install. The other thing that we need to do is we need to go into Tailwind. We need to do the Tailwind is automatically installed with Next.js, so we don't need to do anything for now. We will do few setup later on the video, but currently the other library that we need to use is Lucid React. So basically I'm using this library to add the icon in our project. So this is the command that we need to use until it is being installed. Let's wait. Now the project has been installed. We can see it created a new folder called sidebar, and inside of it we have all the default file that Next.js creates. Let me try to go into that project and run it. So if I run it using npm run dev command, it will run the default Next.js project for us. We don't need contact us. If I go to slash page, you will see that this is the default Next.js template that we are running. Now we need to install few library in order to get started. The first one will be Lucid React, so I can just add Lucid React, and we need to do setup for the Tailwind. So what we need to do is we need to do npx css tailwind css init. This will create a new tss config file. We already have it, sorry for that. So if I go in here, we will see that there are few dependency and configuration that has been added already. We don't need background image for now. Let's just clean the project a bit. So if I run this project again, currently this is what is being shown. I don't need all this thing. So what I can do is I can just remove it, and I can use this VS Code snippet to quickly generate a component, and let's name it as sidebar. So if I save it and if I refresh the page, you will see I have this sidebar, but you can still see I have this background color black. Let's remove that from the global CSS. We don't need this for now. In the body, let's remove this and then save it. We will see that we have this thing as of now. So if I go to Tailwind, I think every configuration is done in here. We don't need to do anything else. So yeah, we have a project to get started with. Now that we have a clean project and it is only showing one page for now, which is sidebar, we can get started with our project. To get started, we need to add a few configuration. The first configuration will be adding colors in Tailwind. So in order to add color, you can extend the Tailwind themes. So you can extend the colors in the Tailwind theme, and then you can add your own color. So something like this. So I can add a object of color called sidebar and make it active background and icon color. I will be using it later on in the video, but if I show you how it works is, let's say I have sidebar as of now. So now I installed the color or added the configuration in the extend for the theme. So I will have a new property in the class name which will let me create it. So if I add text as sidebar active, and if I save it, you will see it becomes the sidebar active color. So this is how the configuration works in this Tailwind. We will be using this to maintain the color and add the primary color, the background color, and the icon color of it to make it active and use it in the corresponding location. So if I want to get started, what I would do is, first of all, I will set up the project structure. In order to set up the folder structure, let us look into the existing folder structure for what we need to create. We have a home page, we have a transaction page, we have a payment page, we have accounts, we have transaction, payments, accounts. Inside settings, we have settings, security, notification. In help, we have FAQ, support, and contact us. So we need to replicate this folder structure in our project. So in Next.js, how we can do it is, so in the app folder, you can create the folder structure. So let's say I want to create a new navigation for transaction. What I can do is I need to create a new folder called transactions, and inside the transaction I need to create a page.tsx file, and in this page.tsx file I will write the component that will be rendered for that particular page. So if I just create a sample component and name it transaction, so if I go in my project, you will see I have slash page as well as I have a transaction page which is just showing the transaction. Similarly, I can replicate payment. So if I create another folder called payment page.tsx payment, and then do similar for accounts page.tsx accounts. For the subfolder, what I need to do is, if I look into our existing solution that we want to replicate, we have a settings page, we have settings slash security, which is being pointed out to the sub menu, and then we have settings slash notification. So in order to replicate the structure, what we need to do is we need to create subfolder inside the top level folder. So what I mean by that is, settings will have a page.tsx which will have settings inside of it. So if I go here, I can go in settings page, and then inside this I will have another folder called, so for security and notification. So one will be for security and then another one will be for notifications. And inside the security, I need to have a page.tsx file. So I can just add security, and then in the notification, I need another page called notifications. And I need to do the same thing for help submenu. So I need to create a new folder called help, which will have a subfolder called FAQ, and then it will have a file called page.tsx. And then let's FAQs, and then I can create another folder for support. And if I go here, I will see this. This is support page, and then last would be contact us. Again, same thing for it, page.tsx, contact us. So now that it has been set up, you will see that I will have all these pages set up. So I can go in slash, it will give me a sidebar. I can go in transaction, it will navigate me to this transaction page. I can go to accounts, it will go let me to accounts page. And similarly, I can go to payment, it will navigate to payment page. I can go to settings, it will navigate me to the settings page on the top level. So basically this page, but I can go inside of it. So settings/security. So this will navigate me to the security page. And if you can see, in order to verify this is being rendered, if I add something like settings security, so you will see the change is being reflected. Same for notification, I can add something like notification 1. You will see this is how it's being structured. So if I give you a brief summary, at the end of the folder structure, we will have something like this. The app level at the top, the page will reflect the home page that we have. We have different folder for all the folders, pages that we need, like accounts. Helps will have subfolder because it has submenu inside of it. Payment will have it. Settings will have subfolders in order to have that sub navigation. Transaction. So this is how we need to set up the folder structure. Once the folder structure has been set up properly, what I need to do is I can get started with creating this container for the sidebar. So let me start by creating a new components folders which will contain all the components that we will be using. And let me add a new component called sidebar, and inside of it I will have a index.tsx file. So let's just create a random component, and if I try to import it into my layout, what I need to do is I just import the sidebar component from component slice sidebar and then use it here. So if I save it, you will see that on each page I will have the shared component which is being shared from the layout. If I go to settings or if I go to home page, anything. So this is how you can create a shared component in the Next.js 14. So what I need to do is I need to do a quick setup for this container. Let me start by making it a full height screen, which is saying I will create it 100 VH. Let me make it with 64 pixel give it a background of white, and give it a shadow of large at this point. And if I save it, you will see that I will have sidebar component in here. But if you look into it, my other component are being inside of it, so I don't want that. So what I need to do is I need to make this component as position fixed, and then if I make it top 0, left 0, if I do that, you will see that my other component is being hidden because sidebar is basically shown on the top. And let me add a z index of 10 for it. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to make a layout in order to use the sidebar. So let me add a new div, and what will this have? Flex, and height will be full, width will be full. If I save it, I will not have any changes for now. Let me add a background red, gray of 100. Let me make it 200 so that it's a bit more visible. You will see that it's visible here, but what I need to do is I need to make it screen so that it is being covered by whole page, so you can clearly see the distinction between sidebar and the other component that is being rendered. So what I need to do on this component is I need to have a margin left, so it can have flex. It will be flex column, width full, height full, but I need to have margin of 64, which is the width of the sidebar that I used here. So now you can see the component is being rendered in a proper place. Let me give it a fixed padding of 4. Now you will see that I have the similar layout replicated here. Sidebar is here, the other component. In order to create less confusion, let me update it to home so that you will see. So home component, and this has been replicated to every other page. So if I go to transaction, I will have the same layout because it is being added on the top layout level. So that is how it works. Now that the layout is being completed for the sidebar, we can start making the UI of the sidebar itself. You will see that we have a logo at the top and then other component here. For the logo, I have downloaded a logo from internet. Every asset will be included in the GitHub repo. You can have the GitHub repo link in the description. So if I try to make, so I go here, I will see we have some padding. So let me give some padding of 3 pixels. If that looks good, we will see that we have a bit padding here. Let me increase it to 4 pixels. So what we need to do is, if you look in here, we have other component a bit below from here. So let's create that image component in the logo. So if I add a class name of width full, height, let's make it 20 pixels for now, and then I can pass the source as slash logo expanded.png. Next.js automatically takes up this public. Let me add an alternative name of logo for this image, and if I save it, it's a bit too big. Let me decrease the height to 15. It looks much better now. Let me decrease it more to 10, something like this. Yeah, it looks good now. So what we need to do is we need to create a new div, which is div of flex column. And then we have a spacing of y of, let's say, 10 for this particular div. And what it does is, if I create a new div here with something like sidebar items, you will see that we have that. If I make it a weight full, I don't know, it is not doing that. Let me make it with fit. Okay, now it looks good. So now you will see that sidebar has that gap that we needed in here, which is nice. Now we can work on creating the sidebar items in here. In order to do that, let's define the items that we need. So what I usually do is I create an items array which contain the list of item that we need. So let's say the first would be named as dashboard, path would be slash, and then icon we can use it from Lucid React. So if I go here, I can go into icons library. If I search for anything with dashboard, I will see that there is a layout dashboard icon that I can use. So if I import it from Lucid React, I will see that there is a layout icon. If I copy this and then paste it here, I will do this for rest of the sidebar. If I define all the items, it looks something like this. I have dashboard with path as slash transaction icon. I imported it from Lucid React. Accounts, similarly I have settings, and if a particular item contains submenu inside of it, so there is an items array which contains name of it and then path where it goes through. And similar thing for help, it has an items for FAQ, support, and contact us. If you look into it, we have just replicated the existing items constant. I like to do this because it creates a bit easier to change later on if you need to make any change on the items for the sidebar. Apart from that, I have also created a few interface in order to work nicely with TypeScript. A sidebar item interface which contain name as a string, icon would be from Lucid React, path will also be in string, items will be sub items, and yeah, this is how it is being rendered. So let's try to render this. Just try to render the items. So in order to render the items, we need to use map, and let's just export something like p with item.name for now. And I need to pass a key of, let's say, item.path. So let's see how it looks. If I go here, if I refresh it, you will see that I have dashboard, transaction, payment, accounts, settings, and help. If I add it inside a div, and I refresh it, so this is showing incorrect form. So this is like what I wanted to see. So now we have rendered the items that we need to do. The next step would be creating a subcomponent in order to render this items. So I would like to create a new file called items which contains the code for the subcomponent. So it would be something like called sidebar item, and what I need to do is, instead of this, I need to render this sidebar items from the item import, and in here I can pass the key and you will see that it will have the sidebar item, but I can also pass item as item. But for that, what I need to do is I need to import it here, and then with the same interface I can copy it from here and paste it here. I need to use that, and it's called I sidebar icon. I need to import the other interface for sub item, and then same for Lucid React. I can just import it here and remove the unnecessary import. So now let me try to destructure it. So if I get name from it, I can show the name. You will see that it works the same, but the thing is it's in a sub menu, and it's in a separate component, which help us make it a bit easier. Now we can try making the UI of it. So if you look into the UI of a sub component, you will see that we have multiple different things. One is we are rendering the icon, we are rendering the text, and there is also a hover set. So if you hover over it, we have a background, and the text is being converted into active color, and then the icon. So let's just start by making it simple. So if I try to just show the icon and then the name, so let's just remove it. I will have a flex. I will make the item center, and let me add a space of 2 for now. And if I show the icon here, so if I display icon as icon, let me try to render that icon here and then add the name for it. You will see it will show like this, but we have a smaller icon and then smaller name inside of it. So let's do that. Let me render the name inside of the component. So add a class name. Let's make it font small. Make it font semi bold, and then save it for now. Okay, this looks a bit better, but we should be using a different color, I guess. No, this looks good. And if I go here, I can decrease the size of it. So if I go in size, let me make it something like 18. Okay, this looks a bit better. In order to give it spacing, I need to add spacing on the top level. Flex column space y1. Okay, so this has a spacing. There are a few things that we need to do. It has a padding. Let me add a padding of 3. It has a background color in order to look into it for now. So let me add bg sidebar background. Okay, this looks a bit better. Let's increase the spacing to 2 just for seeing it, and I need to make it rounded large. This looks a bit more better than earlier one. I think let's increase the size to 20. Okay, that looks good. And we need to make this on hover state. So in order to do that, you can use a thing called hover, which will apply only on hover. So what we need to do is make the sidebar background. So you will see that this is working as expected. One thing that is not working is the cursor is not pointer. It is default. Let's make it pointer. So now I think this looks a bit more better. Let's add few hover state. So on hover, you can see on an existing item, we have color that is being updated. So let's make it text. Would be, we need to make it on hover, text active, text sidebar active. And if I save it, if I go back here, okay, this is working perfectly fine. It is starting to look like this, which is a good thing. Yes, I think this looks good. The next thing that we need to do is, let's say if we have items inside a particular sub item, then we need to render this particular icon. So in order to do that, we can restructure items from it, and if items is there and items dot length is greater than 0, then what we can do is we need to export an icon called chevron down. If I go here, if I type down, this is the icon that I wanted to use. So chevron down, and if I save it, if I go here, you'll see that this icon is being rendered only for settings and help, but there are a few issues onto it. Let's start by decreasing its size, making it to 20. Okay, this looks much better. Maybe 18. It's not big icon that we want, and you will see that we need to make it at the rightmost corner. So in order to do that, we can add in here, make a div, which make this a div, and then we can add justify between, which will simply do this. But what we need to do is make this div a flex, and then again item center, and then space. X would be 2. I think we can just remove this from here and then save it. Okay, this looks much better. So now that we have it on here, I think the only thing that we can do is we can make this as another color that we have. So we have a color called icon color, which is the default color, which is being applied here until, yeah, it looks a bit more better now. Now that we have our UI ready for the sidebar, you will see that it is not clickable. We need to add that click functionality. And if you see, currently I'm on transaction page, but it is not showing the transaction as active. So in order to do that, let's just start with making it clickable. So I have a path called this, and what I need to do is on this div click on click, I need to run a function called on click function, which is an arrow function, and what we need to do is we need to import use router from Next.js, and in order to do that, we need to make this component as a client component. So by default, Next.js make every component as server component, and the top level component for this also needs to be a client component. So now that we have saved it, we will see that we have an unclick functionality. So if I just do an alert and then the path name, we'll see that dashboard, transaction, payment, and etc. So now we need to go into that path. So if I click on router.push and then path, so if I refresh this page, if I click on dashboard, I can go to home page. Transaction will take me to a transaction, payment will take me to payment page, and then account. So now the navigation is working. The next thing would be looking at the active state of a particular sidebar. So basically, since I'm on account page, the account page should have been active, like here. So if I go on accounts, the accounts is active. So in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to use another hook called use memo. And what we can do is we define a new variable called is active, and basically use memo is a hook which runs whenever the dependency changes, and then we can return any value from here, and then that value will be assigned to active. So what I mean by that is I can pass path, and the other thing that I need to do is I need to import the use path name. So this gives me the path name and then path name. So basically, if I pass path and path name, what it does, it reruns the function inside of this use memo, and then I can return any value which is being assigned to is active. So let's do a simple thing, which is like return if path equals to path name, then it is active, else it is not active. So once I do that, what I need to do is I need to make this class dynamic. So I can pass this string, I can remove this. So what I need to pass in here is so if is active, then only make text sidebar active and make background color. So if I go here, I can see that those are the only two changes that is being done whenever an account is. So if I save it, what you will see is if I refresh this page, you'll see that accounts is being rendered on that level, but I can still see that text sidebar is not being active for some reason. Let me look into it. But you can see that the background color is being applied. So if you look into my code now, you can see the account is being active, and if I go to payments, you will see that payment is active. Even if I refresh this page, the payment is active, and then so on. Same for transaction, dashboard, and accounts. So this is working, which is a good thing. But and everything is working fine as expected inside of it. But you will see we have few issues. One is it is sending me to help page, which is not good, and then site settings page. But what I need to do is I need to have to expand it. So now we need to look into the sidebar items. So let's get started for that. Since we have the sidebar working for the item, so if I go to transaction, I have transaction. If I go to payments, I have payments. The active is also working, the hover state is working, everything is working as expected. We can start looking into the sub menu items. If you look into our existing solution that we need to create, so we can expand the menu, and then we can expand again, and then click on any particular menu, and then it takes on to security, and then it shows that menu here. So even if the security is not matching with the stop level path, but it is still showing as active. So in order to start working on this functionality, let's create this expand functionality initially. So in order to do that, we need to create a new state called expanded, and we can click on expanded, and by default it will be false, and we are already having use client, so we don't need to do that. So what we need to do is, whenever we are clicking on a particular item, so if that items contain a lot of sub item inside of it, then we need to expand it. So if items and items dot length is greater than 0, then set expanded equals to true. So in order to test it, let's just create a new test thing. So let's say if expanded, then render something like expanded, and so sub menu items, and let's just return it. So basically, if I go here, I refresh the page, I can see that when I click on settings, it just so expanded and so sub menu items, and then same for help, but it is not collapsing. In order to do that, what we need to do is, instead of passing true, we need to pass expanded. So basically what this command does is, if expanding equals to true, then it passes false. So it does opposite of what we already have. So now what happens, if I click on it, it just goes expanded and goes away. So it's a nice thing to have inside of it. Let's just do small thing as, if class name, so if expanded, then we have rotate something like 180-degree, or don't rotate it. So basically, if so what has happened is, so if you see, initially the arrow is downward, but if I click on expand, it is showing this way. So we can do that using this rotate command. We can also add a duration of something like 75 to make it a bit slower, so it shows something like rotating. If we add 200, you will see how it is being rotated. So it's a pretty nice animation to have in our application. Translate something like this. So now we need to render the sub menu here. Let's just start by rendering the items. So if items and items dot length is greater than 0, then what we need to do is, we need to loop through items and then map it. So if expanded is true and then we have items, then let's just try to render it. So let me try to do a simple render with item dot name, and then in order to remove the error or warning sign, let's just pass key item dot path. So basically now I can see I am rendering all the small components or the sub menu inside the settings, and then when I do this, it is dynamic for that settings. So next thing that I think I can do is, I can create a sub menu item.tsx. So this is like a new item for the sub menu item, and instead of rendering a p, I can render a sub menu item, and in order to remove the, I need to pass that path. So now you will see that I will just render this component. Instead of that, if I pass item, then let me copy this interface and then paste it here, and in item let me pass item I sub menu item. Okay, so it should be something like this. And if I destructure it, so if I get name from this item, and if I try to render this name here, you will see that I will have similar thing. Let's start to work on CSS part of it. So you will see that we have a gap on the left hand side for it, and then we are rendering the items here. So in order to add that gap, let's add it here. So if I create a new div, and then I can pass this function here, and this div will have a flex column. I will have a space of 1, and I will have a margin left of, let's say, 10. So if I save it, if I go here, you will see that I have this security notification. And if I go in the sub menu, let me replace it with dev, and let's make text small. Okay, so this is good. And for some reason I'm just rendering it's taking a bit more gap for the top level than the small level. I need to look into why that is happening. But oh, so I need to give a y. Yeah, so now that is working correctly. And then try to complete the CSS of it. If I go here, I think we have a bit more gapping on this one. Now if I save it, okay, this looks a bit nice. If I need to work on CSS for it, what I need to do is I need to make it, I think this looks good, but I need to add a hover state. So basically on hover, I need to make this sidebar active color, and I need to make it font semi bold. So we will have that replicable step. I also need to make the cursor as a pointer. Okay, this looks much more like what we already have. I think it has a bit more gap. So what I need to do, let's say I need to make it 2. Okay, so this is now properly replicated for the existing solution. Functionality UI part of it is being completed. So if you look into it, we have this UI, the hover state is also working, but now what we need to do is make it clickable. So if I click on it, nothing is happening as of now. So let's start with that, and let's say I also need to make this. So if I am in the setting, then this should be auto selected and then should be highlighted. So we are missing those things. So let's add a on click event on here, create a function called on click, and it will be just we need to export path from item. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to use router from Next.js. It should be next navigation with next app, and if we are using next navigation, we need to use client. So whenever an on click happen, we need to router dot push to specific path. So if I save it and go back, let's say I refresh my screen and let's say I'm in security, you'll see that I'm being going there. So the navigation is now working. Let's work with the active state. So similarly, like before, what we can do is we can copy this code and use it here. We need to import the use memo from React, and then what we need to do is we need to use the same thing for the use path and then import it. So basically, if I need to make this dynamic, what I need to do is if is active equals to true, then I need to make text sidebar active and font semi bold, else nothing. Or what I can do is I can just add an AND operator. That should work. So if I go here, if I refresh my screen, you will see that the security is being highlighted. If I go to general, the settings is highlighted. If I go to notification, the notification is highlighted. Same for FAQs, support, and contact us. But one thing you will see is if I go into previous solution, you will see that this is highlighted along with the top level menu also. So but that is not happening here. So if I'm on security, I can see that this is not being highlighted. So let's work on that. So if I go in items, what I need to do is, so in is active condition where I'm checking this, I need to check if items and if items dot length is greater than 0. So basically, if the current item contains any submenu or not. If yes, then what I need to do is check if I find any items with the current path name. So let's say item, then items dot find, and where item equals to item dot path if it matches the current name, then if item, or what I can do is I can add this into a if condition, and then if it finds, then return true. Yes. So basically what it is doing is if there is item, in which is basically referring to if there is any sub menu inside this top level menu, and if any of the path of the sub menu matches the current path name, then it is returning as true. So I need to do this also, and what I can do is make it more simplified. I can just return, and that should pretty much be it. Let's try to save it, and if I refresh the screen, now you can see the security inside of it. The other step let's do here is if the items is found, then set expanded, make it expanded, and then return true. So what it will do is if I'm inside the security, it will auto expand the settings, and then let's say I go into home page, contact us, refresh the page. So now it is working. So if we look into the current project, I think we have everything that we need. The only thing that I can see of is I need to give a bit more space at the top, margin top maybe 2. Okay, so that it has this clarity inside of it. let's make it 3 maybe. Now that we have completed our tutorials, you can see the final product. It says I have this nice sidebar, I have home, I can go to transaction, payment, accounts, I have this collapsible and expandable functionality for submenu items. Inside settings, I can go to general, security, notifications, and same for FAQs, support, and contact us. If I'm inside a particular sub bar and I refresh the page, if you can see, it is auto expanded for that particular. But if I go to accounts and refresh the page, the accounts is only shown and the help is automatically collapsed. So that is how it works. If you have watched till this time of the video, thank you very much for watching my video. Let me know if you have any other application on tutorials that I need to create on. I will be more than happy if you leave a like and subscribe to our channel. It will help a lot. Until next time, thank you.